I'm Rowena Kay Mascarenhas, and I'm the Executive Director of Thai Boston, with over 2.5 decades of experience in the corporate world and the nonprofit world.
Rowena, welcome to our show, and thank you very much for your time. We are looking forward to honoring you at our 21st Annual Women of the Year Awards Gala as the Outstanding Women of 2024.
Thank you, Upendra. I'm deeply honored. I never imagined I would be here, and it's a great privilege for me. I'm grateful to you and to Dr. Manju Seth for pulling off a wonderful show every year. Well, I'm a retirement baby, which means that I was born after my father took early retirement. I was reflecting, a few days ago on what it is that has been most impactful for me in my childhood. And I do want to go back to the time when we were part of the Scouts and Guides movement. There is an oath that we were made to take and a motto. The motto was be prepared. And I constantly go back to that one thing that's stuck in my brain from my childhood. Be prepared. To every meeting you go to everyone that you're going to meet. Make sure you have your things all lined up in a row. The oath also starts by saying, on my honor, I promise to do my best and to be true to yourself. Unless you know your self-worth, how is it possible to convince other people in the room? And finally, it ends by saying that you promise to help others at all times. So this oath has been so meaningful and so touching for me that it's something that I've never been able to detach from right through my life. It has been like the basic tenet on which I have built my professional journey as well as my personal journey.
Now we'll come back to your professional career, but I am now intrigued by a couple of things. Number one is, how old were your parents when you were born? Because you said retirement baby. So that's one thing. And the second question is, where did you grow up?
This is so interesting and fascinating for you to ask this question. Well, I have to hark back to my native place and where I'm from, which is Goa. I'm very rich of the legacy and my heritage, which, is a little different from other places because it was a Portuguese colony at the time. My parents had an arranged marriage, so there was a substantially large age difference between them. So when my father took premature retirement, my mother was 45 and just about able to have a child. So that was me, a
That's
retirement baby.
wonderful. That's incredible at that time, and that's happening in India. It must be more like a miracle than anything else.
Well, at the time that they got married and when they were in school, my parents, it was still a time when you needed a passport to come from one part of India, which was Goa, to another part of India. And you needed a little letter that was like a visa that permitted you to leave the colony. So it's a very different time and age that my parents grew up in as compared to me. And I'm so grateful for the privilege, the blessings that I have, because I didn't have to travel much for my education as compared to my
And
parents.
when did you leave Goa?
Well, the longest I've ever spent in one place in my life has been Delhi, actually. And prior to Delhi, I was in Bombay. And in Goa too. But I would just say, since we're talking about the places that I've lived, and those experiences matter because every different place gives you nuances to regional influences, and so I would say, when we talk about my career, I will tell you about it, but I've visited about 28 states of India. I've lived in multiple cities in India. So whether it was Delhi, which is the longest that I've stayed in one place, or Bombay when it was Bombay, but it's now Mumbai. And I think it transitioned to Mumbai while I was in Mumbai. And of course, Goa. These places have an influence on you. They shape you in different ways. But I wouldn't restrict my my travels to just these three places. In the course of my career, I've had the blessing to travel to 28 states of the country, and I've had exposure to different Indias. As Gandhi says, India lives in its villages, and I've been blessed to experience that life in India's villages.
Rowena, what brought you to the United States?
That's a very interesting question, Upendra. I was working in a nonprofit that was binational. It had operations in India and in the United States. So I already had the exposure and the travel between the two countries. This was the logical next step, which was to move here and start exploring how I can contribute to this country.
And then which was the nonprofit? Can you name the nonprofit you were working?
Of course, absolutely. Yes, I was working with American India Foundation.
And who doesn't know AIF in our Indian American community? Yes.
Absolutely, and it's a wonderful, wonderful organization because it works in it works in multiple verticals. It recognizes that poverty is not one-dimensional. So you have livelihoods, you have health, you have education, and in all of these verticals, they are also driving gender equality. So I think gender is a big lens that they use. So I feel very proud that I was able to work in an organization like that was set up by visionaries 25 years ago. So
And
I
how
think
long did you work with the AIF?
I was there for 7 years prior to AIF, and what made me move to the nonprofit world. I was very lucky to start my career in telecom at a time when telecom was booming. So I had great exposure to liberalization, to telecom booming, and then moved to Crompton, which was consumer goods that we were working in. In Crompton, I had exposure to different parts of the country and how markets in different parts of the country work. And Crompton gave me that exposure to qualitative and quantitative research. The next move that I made was in an academic institution called Oxford University Press. And we worked with researchers, scholars, academia, and curriculum. Now, the thing there is that it gave me, and this is something that not many people know, it gave me the opportunity to interact with presidents and prime ministers of the country. I want to say as well, the universe has given me so much. I am so grateful for this, and I really wanted to give it back. So I began to explore what I can do in the nonprofit world. That's what made me then switch to this excellent opportunity that came my way in American India.
So now, before we move to your next stage, next phase of your life, I just want to go back a little bit. If you can also talk about your educational background, where did you went for education?
And I'm so grateful to you for asking this question.
Sure.
I did a B.Ed in special education, and I specialized in mental disabilities. Very tough, but I did it because in Oxford University Press, we work in education, and this was a way of being inclusive in our curriculum. So I enjoyed it. It sensitized me to a whole community of people with disabilities. And that's where my interest for people with disabilities really began. I was able to carry that forward in American India Foundation because they do a whole program for people with disabilities called ABLE. But to come back to my education, the next thing I did, and I was lucky to do, was with Akhtar Badshah in the University of Washington, and was a course on social innovation. So it helped me to build, again, on my knowledge base of the nonprofit world. Additionally, just very recently, as in last year, I had the privilege of studying with Professor Arthur Brooke, and he's with Harvard University. So the course was on nonprofit leadership and management, and I now feel that I have a really strong base in terms of my education. Thank you for asking.
Sure. And now talking about nonprofit leadership, let us talk about Thai Boston. How did your journey with Thai Boston started and when?
This is so interesting. Again, thank you for asking that question. I started with Thai Boston in 2021, and I was very lucky to, again, I've had the best mentors right through my career. This time it was Anu Chitrapu, who was the president of Thai Boston. Incredibly grateful to her for the selection she made and the trust she put in me as an executive director of Thai Boston. As you know, Thai is a global organization. It is in 61 locations. It has 16,000 members, and it is doing some incredibly amazing work with entrepreneurs. In Thai Boston, it is such an honor for me to hold this position because Thai Boston was founded by luminaries like Deshpande, Radha Jalan, who's getting the Lifetime Award from you very shortly, and 12 other founders like Samir Desai, Sushil Bhatia, Mahendra Patel, Dr. Dinesh Patel, and so on. It's a heavy reputation that I carry on my shoulders. And I'm also grateful to the presidents who have come before and who have been extending a helping hand and a steer to make sure that the organization continues on its streak. Just to let you know, last year, Thai Boston won the Best Chapter Award. So I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in this chapter.
And also, actually, Thai Boston has led in various other groups as well, the worldwide. A lot of programs started by Thai Boston has been adopted by other chapters.
Yes, thank you for that as well. Yes, so we started the TYE program, the Thai Young Entrepreneurs Program in 2005 under the then ED and president. And 20 years later, you can see that it's been replicated in 30 chapters all over the world. But more importantly, it has impacted students globally. It has inculcated in them, imparted in them an entrepreneurial mindset. So I don't think we want to make every student an entrepreneur, but what we want them to do is have skills that will be good and hold them in good stead in 21st century. So that's an impactful program that we're running. Separately, we have Thai Scale Up, which is a C to Series A accelerator, and Thai Angels, which has touched so many entrepreneurs and enabled them to be successful. I also want to talk a little bit about Thai Boston Women, which is an initiative, as well as Thai University, which we just concluded the final pitch competition a couple of days ago, full of excitement in the air. Additionally, what I do want to say is that there is nobody I know who has not been impacted by Thai Boston in this community. I'm very proud of the organization I work with. I know that we're bringing about change. I would love to do more. And the current leadership of Ayash Shah as president and Rakesh as the treasurer are doing so much. There's a wonderful board that supports the leadership. And there will be a transition, as we see every 2 years, a beautiful template for running a great organization that is creating access to wealth, to jobs, to livelihoods, to innovation. So I'm very proud of what the organization. I also want to say, I want to bring to attention one more thing, Upendra, which is that the Thai recognizes, the different challenges that entrepreneurs face. And this is gender neutral challenges. It also recognizes that women entrepreneurs have faced difficulties and barriers. And so it is creating those pathways for everyone to be successful at whatever entrepreneurial venture they're taking up. Additionally, there was one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. I volunteer my time with an organization called Dawn Worldwide. It's an organization that's set up by Geeta Iyer and Kamesh Iyer, and they work towards ending gender-based violence and advancing gender equity. Interestingly, one of the key pillars there is working with men and boys. I think making sure that you're carrying everybody along with you, irrespective of whether it's just women, but also men, it has to be gender inclusive. all genders included in, is the way forward for all of us.
What are some of your hobbies? What you really enjoy if you're not working for Thai Boston or other nonprofits?
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been lucky to be able to convert some of my hobbies into again impactful work. So for example, I love gardening. What I'm doing there is I'm
Me too.
volunteering. So there is.
You can already see some indoor plants in the background, and I can see some plant in your living room as well. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I work with a farm to table project here in the city, which actually works on an urban farm. We have already started the work for this summer and fall harvest. The produce that comes from this farm is taken to different communities. It is packed into boxes and given to families that really are struggling with food. So food security is a very important part of our lives today. Just to know that people are going hungry is very disappointing. It's something we really need to do something about. I also love traveling. Of course, I've not yet found a way to convert that into social impact, but I've traveled to many countries across the world. And in the United States, I think about now 12 different states that I've covered. I'm hoping to do all 50 when I have the time.
You do gardening, you do cooking, you do traveling. What about any interest in Hollywood or Bollywood?
Well, that's a good question you ask. Hollywood, Bollywood are mostly cinema and the entertainment industry.
Sure.
And I actually am very, very interested in documentaries. Film fascinates me, and in my career, I have worked with filmmakers. In terms of Bollywood or Hollywood, I don't make choices. I watch movies. I enjoy following movies, and I make recommendations. The most recent movie that I watched, of course, is The Great Debaters. Denzel Washington stars in it. And I strongly recommend it to people who are in the public line, who speak, who love the thought of argument. Wonderful movie. So really, truthfully, I watch it when I have the time for entertainment. I try to make that time. It's not easy because your career, in your job, there are multiple hours of work. But I do make this time for my hobbies, which is, gardening, working with an urban farm on the farm to table project, clean environment with the green team, and traveling, and somewhere in between reading a book or watching a movie.
Excellent. Now, your last word.
That's important. I want to say, again, I'll repeat the same message. I am so grateful for everything that I've got. I'm so conscious of this privilege I have had in terms of my job, in terms of my personal life. Everybody has setbacks. There are setbacks that you face, but the idea is to bounce back and be grateful for your blessings.
Rowena, thank you so much. And we'll see you on April 26th at Burlington Marriott.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.